Hey everybody, good morning. It is Tuesday, February 17th at like 9:20. But Ash Wednesday is on my mind because it's tomorrow. And as folks know, we have a shared tradition with our neighbors at First Congregational Church in downtown Chelsea. We share that worship service, and it's our friends downtown. It's their turn to host that worship service. And so um, I don't get to preach tomorrow on Ash Wednesday. But I'm thinking a lot about it. So first of all, I hope that you'll join us downtown at 6 p.m. tomorrow at First Congregational. All are welcome for Ash Wednesday worship. But I can't get some of the themes, the um, theological pastoral themes out of my mind when it comes to Ash Wednesday, and I feel like I'm thinking about it just a little bit differently this year because um, I can only really speak for myself, and I can only speak reflecting on what folks have shared with me over the last year and the last month of our lives together, people's lives individually. Um, it's been a lot for folks. Folks have been going through a lot, either stuff going on in the world, the stuff that's newsworthy, the heavy burdens that so many of us carry personally, whether it's grief or illness or financial stress or caring for and raising kids in a world where that's not easy to do. Folks are dealing with a lot, and folks are worn down. And the thing that has me feeling reflective and has me thinking so much about what it is we do traditionally on Ash Wednesday is the thing that we say, right? When our foreheads are marked with a cross made of usually palm ash from the palms that we used the year before on Palm Sunday. We always say, or I always say, and most of you have probably heard most of your lives, remember you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Um, we say it, we hear it, we kind of take it for granted. It's all a part of the Ash Wednesday liturgy. You may or you may not know where it comes from, and so I want to offer you that first before I go any further and kind of share with you what's on my mind as we head into Ash Wednesday this year. Um, you may not know that line, you are dust, remember you are dust, and to dust you shall return, actually comes from the third chapter of the book of Genesis, the very first book in the Bible. And it's at the tail end of the third chapter where God is telling Adam and Eve that they're being evicted. They're being kicked out of the Garden of Eden for, as the story goes, having succumbed to temptation, having eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, tempted by the serpent. Adam and Eve both eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and so they have to be expelled from the Garden of Eden. And this is the line. This is verse 19 from chapter 3. I'll read it from my New Revised Standard Version. Genesis says, "By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return from the ground, for out of it you were taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return." And so it's Genesis saying, or Genesis, the writers of Genesis having God telling Adam that human beings are going to work with their hands and sweat and toil until they die. Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. You came from the earth. And so we offer these words, or I offer those words in the way that I was taught as I impose ashes on the forehead or on the hand of folks as they come forward to the chancel area on Ash Wednesday. It's a part of our liturgy as a reminder of our human frailty, the reality that all of us are going to die at some point, and we will return to the earth from which we were created. And it's a reminder of that. The Lenten season is a season of vulnerability where we're reminded of our human frailty and that what we have here is fragile and temporary. And our mind ought to be set on what is beyond that, but we need to be reminded. So all of that is true. It's the case. But what I what I want to say this year, as Ash Wednesday is tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening. I'm sorry. Um, is that there is a very good chance that you are somebody who is not very far removed from a time in your life, whether it has been uh, a hard year, or you've had a bad month somewhere in there, or just a really rough week, or even just a bad day that had you worn out and tired. There's a really, really good chance that you're not too far removed from an experience that had you pretty well aware of your own human frailty, and where um, that reality that Genesis describes, that you are dust and to dust you shall return. It didn't feel so foreign. It didn't feel so distant. You've had a moment probably of late where um, you were aware. You were aware of your human frailty, and you felt that bone deep tired, that soul level fatigue. Um, and you probably don't need to be reminded all that often that you are dust and to dust you shall return. And so I want to frame this just a little bit differently, or give you another way. I don't want to take away the Ash Wednesday liturgy. I think it's beautiful and I love it. But I want to give you another way to maybe think about it this year, and maybe moving forward. What God is telling Adam and Eve as they leave the garden, which is um, a difficult circumstance described in Genesis. It's a challenging story. But what God is reminding Adam and Eve of is the fact that in the creation story, humanity is taken from creation, from the earth, from dirt, from dust, and shaped intentionally by God's own hands, um, carefully, lovingly. And God is reminding Adam and Eve of that. Yes, that they will someday die, but in the meantime, from the beginning to the end, it's a reminder that every human being has the divine fingerprints that intentionally and lovingly shaped their being from the very beginning, from the outset of life, from the moment we had breath. We were shaped, each of us, by God's own hands. And that is an intimate connection and relationship um, that could lead to an awareness that we are so lovingly, intentionally, divinely shaped and created, um, that even when we experience those days and weeks and months and years where we are bone deep tired, where we are soul level drained, in the back of our minds, and I hope closer to the front of our minds and our hearts, we would know that the God who created everything, as Genesis tells us, the God who created everything, there's a message out there that tells us that God carefully, lovingly, intentionally, on purpose, took God's own hands and shaped us and gave us life. And that from beginning to end and beyond, we are still held carefully, intentionally, lovingly by God's own hands. Um, and so the life that we have was given to us and is held together and is cared for by the creator of the universe. And so sure, from dust we came, um, but we are so much more than that. We are shaped by the fingerprints of the divine, on purpose. We are here on purpose. And so I hope that you will remember that as Ash Wednesday arrives tomorrow and as we head into the Lenten season. Yes, it's a season where we are mindful of our vulnerability and our frailty, but I pray that you'll be mindful and aware each day of your life, including during the Lenten season, of the love and the intentionality with which God created you and still cares for you. May it be so. Amen.